Hey there, and welcome to Better Days Start Today, the podcast where no matter what you've been through, every single day holds the power to change everything. I'm your host, Adrienne Crowley. I'm an author, coach, and your guide to creating a life you're genuinely excited to wake up to. Around here, we believe in taking intentional action, embracing the messy middle, and showing up for ourselves, starting right here, right now. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get started because your better days, they start today. Hey there, I'm Adrienne, and welcome to this brand new iteration of my podcast, Better Days Start Today. I have got so much to share with you. It's about why this pivot, why now, what's next, what does it look like? I just wanted to really reintroduce myself, explain the focus, explain what you can expect out of this, and just invite you along for the ride. So the premise of this is that life setbacks don't define us. They shape us, but every day is an opportunity for a fresh start. And Better Days Start Today is both a promise and a call to action to create a life that excites you, even if it's messy, right? Like you can start taking a new direction, trying something new, reinventing yourself, reinventing your life, figuring out what you like now in this chapter. And you don't have to have it all figured out. Right? You could start and kind of figure it out as you go. And that's the idea of this, is that whatever circumstance you find yourself in right now, whatever setback, challenging thing, life change, transition, grief, whatever it is that you're experiencing that feels like it's keeping you stuck from living your best life, it's holding you back, you just can't quite shake off the difficult emotions that might be coming up, and you feel like you're losing sight of yourself a little bit. And you don't really know what to do about it. And you're tired of listening to everybody telling you, hey, if you do this, everything will be better. Of course, on this podcast, I'm going to share what has worked for me. I'm going to bring in perspectives of other people. But really, this podcast is an invitation to try different things, to treat your life like it's an experiment. See where it goes. If you have a curiosity and inkling, something that might make you feel better, might excite you again, follow it and just see what happens. But I get away from myself right now. I'm getting ahead of things. I want to go back to why I titled it this way. So my Nana had this phrase that she'd say all the time, better days are coming. And it was like a family mantra. No matter what anyone was going through, she'd say it. We would say it. All of us would. But when she said it, it was almost like she could see something that the rest of us couldn't. The thing is, she was always right. Always. Even on my hottest days, any of the really tough, difficult, impossible days that I have had where I feel like, the lights have gone out in the world and it's never going to be better. Even on those days, better days eventually came. But here's the catch. Better days are coming. It's a powerful mantra. It's a powerful belief to have. That is a core belief of mine. But I say it and it almost can feel passive. Meaning you're almost waiting for better days to come. Like someday they're just going to arrive and everything's going to be great. And to me, while this is a core belief in something I say to myself for podcasting, I say that out loud and it feels like maybe we're sitting on the sidelines of our lives and we're waiting for something to change. And I did almost name the podcast Better Days Are Coming because like that is her, that is a link to her, a story I can tell. But the more I thought about it, it's like not quite the whole truth. Better days are always coming. I do believe our better days, our best days are ahead of us. Better days don't just show up on their own. We have to start creating them. And I believe we have to do that today, right now. Every day is a new opportunity. We don't have to wait for Monday. We don't have to wait for the first of the month or January 1st, although it is a new year. Happy New Year. Every single day is an opportunity for a fresh start. And Better Days Start Today, it's not just like this feel-good saying, to me anyways. It's a stake in the ground. It's a promise and it's a call to action. It's a decision point. I'm not going to wait for better days to come. I'm going to create them starting right now, starting today. So as you listen to this, I want you to hold on to this idea. I want you to ask yourself this. What's one thing that you could do today to move closer to the life that you want? Because every day we're either moving towards the life that we want or we're moving away from it. There's no stuck. Stuck is an illusion. Stuck is Maybe you don't see all of the options, and the ones that you see you don't quite like, so you're not making a decision, but indecision is a decision. Also a separate episode. Better days are coming was her mantra. But I believe we need to create them ourselves. We need to start today. We need to get into action, make some decisions, stop sitting on the sidelines. We're not waiting, we're creating. So another one of my Nana's favorite sayings was, why put off until tomorrow what you can do today? Now, I know that's like a version of Benjamin Franklin's quote, but in my mind, that's just like a thing my grandmother said. But let me tell you, like she, she's been through it. Well, she's dead now, but when she was alive, like she didn't have an easy life. She had 2 kids die when they were really young. She had 10 kids total, a lot of ups and downs, career changes. And, she did what she needed to do to create the life that she wanted, create an amazing life for her family. But whatever it was, whether it's a chore, a big decision, just taking a walk in the morning, she believed in showing up today, right? And getting the thing done today. Because one thing that I think she knew better than most people, having lost 2 kids when they were very young, is that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. You think, most of us think, well, I'll take care of that tomorrow because you plan on waking up in the morning. But when you're someone that has lost multiple children, that may in fact not be the case. I know there are a million reasons to wait. We can tell ourselves that we'll start when we have more time, when we're more prepared, when we're less scared, when we feel better, when we want to, when we feel motivated, when we have help, when we figured it out, when we have more information, whatever. But every day that we wait, we miss an opportunity to get one step closer to what we want. Because truly every day is an opportunity to make a decision to get one step closer to what we want. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. You're not going to get clear on what you want by sitting around and thinking about it. You're going to get clear by getting curious, by having an idea of thinking what you might like, what you might want to do next, and then trying it. And maybe you do it and you feel like, oh, that wasn't quite right, or I'm a little bit closer, or absolutely not. That is not what I thought it would be, right? Like we don't wait around to feel ready. We start and the readiness follows. And that's the heart of Better Days Start Today. We start trying new things. If we don't like where we're at, if we don't like how we feel, if we don't like what we've gone through and we want something different for ourselves, we take action today to get one step closer to what we want. This podcast is here to remind you, to guide you, to coach you. Whatever you're dreaming about, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're longing for, you can start today, even if it's messy, or especially if it's messy. So when I became a certified grief educator, I thought, okay, this makes sense. My mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. I wanted to, quote unquote, do grief better than I had in the past. And I had a lot of professional experience from my time as a crisis counselor and a peer support counselor in law enforcement. So I leaned in, right? I wrote a book of poetry about my own grief, and my mom is still with us, but this is a journey that I've been on for the last 2 years, her terminal diagnosis. And after I wrote the book about it, people were like, oh, that grief, like that's your thing. Talk to me more about that. Help me out with this. And I worked with a business coach and she was like, absolutely, this can be your thing. You've got your own personal stories to weave in, your own experience, professional training, etc. And you're living it. So I built my coaching offers, started working with some people. And at first it felt like the right thing. I even pivoted my podcast, started out Live Your Truth, Love Your Life. And then I just went, full on into living with loss. But something kept feeling off. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I realized I don't want to spend all day, every day in the heavy, raw space of early grief. I just don't. I have the background, I have the training, and I have the compassion to support people there. But that is not where my heart feels most alive. That doesn't feel like what I'm called to do, at least not right now. I realized I'm not meant to sit in the darkness with you forever. I'm here to help you step into the light, into what's next, help you take steps forward. Because there's a moment when you're in grief, sometime after your loss, after your upheaval, your change, where you start to wonder, all right, what now? What's next? And that's the moment that I want to meet you in. So I just felt like sticking with living with loss, but then talking about like this rebuilding and what's next, it was going to bring in listeners that maybe earlier in their grief journey that weren't really ready to explore those types of questions. So I had to kind of work through that and figure out exactly where do I want to meet the people that I want to work with and how do I need to meet them there? Like, what language do I need to use? Here we are. New title change, new focus. And I say, I don't want to meet people when they're in that raw early grief space. It's not that I can't. It's just that my superpower is reinvention. And that is because that's something I have done so many times in my own life. I have worked with people through it in my previous career and coaching. Reinvention is what lights me up. Reinvention, the figuring out the next, the reimagining, the dreaming, that is what I get excited about. And reinvention or reimagining your life, it's not about ignoring what happened or pretending it didn't or pretending like you don't have feelings that you do about the difficult thing. You honor it, you carry it with you, but you also choose to build something new. And if you're not in a space where your mind can adjust to the fact that you're going to choose to build something new, then we are probably not in a space where we're a great match to work together right now. I believe that different can be better, right? Just because you loved what was before and that no longer is the case, that doesn't mean that things can't be better again. So I listened to this episode by Mel Robbins, and she was talking about reinvention. And something kind of clicked. She was talking about how every big transition, whether it's a loss, a divorce, a job change, or even something joyful like becoming a parent, it brings us to this point where we start asking what's next. And I've lived in the what's next space a lot. I've moved to different states. I've changed jobs. I have lived in another country. Like, that what's next space is a space I'm very familiar with. And it's also a space that terrifies some people. And the reason is that space is very messy. It's uncertain. And we as humans like to have certainty. We like to know what we can expect. But when you're in that awkward, messy middle space of what's next and you don't know yet, that is an opportunity for transformation. It's an opportunity for reinvention. And I know that I can serve you there and I can serve you best in that space. Reinvention, coaching, it's not about having all of the answers. It's really not. It is about asking questions. So I ask you questions, you ask yourself questions, and we kind of explore and we take steps forward. We try some stuff on, right? Like you can't know this is the exact right thing for me because it seems like it in your head. You actually have to try it out. You have to do it. You have to take some steps to figure out if that is actually for you. We can all imagine this amazing dream life and, oh, once I do this thing, then I'll be happy. But then you do the thing and you realize, that didn't work. We can make one thing in our minds, and then upon the execution, realize, well, that's not quite right. So it's all about kind of digging in and figuring out where our curiosities lie, what interests us, what we think might be a good fit, and then actually getting up the courage to try it and reflecting. Like, does this work? Does this not work? How do I feel? Am I one step closer? Which way do I need to kind of shift my attention? And you go from there. So when I started podcasting, I went all in, right? I just decided like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is the title. This is my subject matter, and going for it. I know what I was doing. I still a lot of days feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, even though I've had a podcast for over a year now. But it's one of those things where I just decided this is the thing I'm going to do, and I'll figure it out as I go. And I have. And then eventually along the way, I decided I was going to start recording video so I can share clips to social media. In the beginning, I intentionally did not get camera ready. Essentially, I'd like just throw on, whatever sweater I was wearing, super comfortable, recorded, post clips. And I'm like, I'm not even going to criticize how I look. I'm not going to get hung up on that because it's one of those things when you feel uncomfortable about something new. Like if I wanted a video show, I would have done YouTube, but I didn't. But then everybody's like, oh, if you record on camera, then you can repurpose the clips, etc. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try that. And rather than get hung up on the way I did or didn't look, like I'm just going to look however I look today and go with it and see what happens. But then somewhere along the way, I didn't feel uncomfortable about being on video anymore. Like whatever that thing was where I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. It feels weird. It shifted, it went away. So I'm like, okay, well now I don't have to kind of just show up as I am because the way I look doesn't make me uncomfortable. So I put a little more effort into it. And I started shifting towards this, like it's becoming a production, right? Like the light has to be on, the makeup is done, the outfit's a certain way. And then it's like, oh, well, you can't wear this outfit if you just recorded that other day where, you're just in the clips wearing that thing. And it kind of became like this production almost. And that's not really what I wanted. I want to be able to jump behind a microphone and talk to some people, tell some stories, maybe give out some information that might help people. And it started turning into this other thing. And I started dreading it, right? Like, so I'm not excited about the content because, I shifted from live your truth, love your life into living with loss. And I'm talking about grief, not excited about it. So I'm forcing myself to talk about grief. And then I'm forcing myself to look a certain way. And none of it felt quite right, but I'm doing it and I'm spending more time than I wanted on editing. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, what do I actually want this to feel like? So I just stopped for a little bit. I'm like, I got to figure this out. I just want to press pause. And I kind of started this on a whim, like, hey, I want to do this, let me do it. And now I'm committed to it. Do I want to stay committed to it? Enough time has gone by. I've done this enough times where I can make a decision and decide, is this actually what I want to continue with? So for me, the intentional action was to actually stop and just to reassess. Then, give myself permission to change my mind, whatever that was, because I do believe alignment matters. Like if something doesn't feel right, it is not sustainable. And I was getting into that space of this doesn't feel right and I don't want to do it. Gonna segue into a little story. When I was in Martha Beck's Wayfind a Coach training, we did the Colby Index assessment. And it's all about how you take action, your conative style. Conative, not cognitive, conative style. So before I took the test, story within a story, I was in the middle of wallpapering my office. I had decided, I'm going to do some peel and stick wallpaper as my backdrop. And I'm like, I'll do this, then I'll do the assessment. We were going to meet back in class in a couple of days. So I was like, all right, I kind of had it lined out in my mind how this is going to go. So we're wallpapering and I run out. And I'm like barely halfway through. And the wall that I recorded in front of, there's like, it's half in color and the other half is, it's just a white wall. And that is peak quick start energy. And I say this because that is one of the 4 results that you can get, right? Quick start. So I run out of wallpaper. I go online and I make the order for, we measure the wall, make the order for what I need. And I'm like, oh, I'll take the assessment. I'm on my computer and I get quick start. And as I'm sitting there, like, why would I not have just measured the wall and ordered the appropriate amount? Because I get an idea and I do it. And that's kind of what I did with the podcast. And that's kind of what I did with the pivot is I just start, I experiment, I dive in and I figure it out as I go. Like that is typically how I take action with deciding, I've ended up in this space where I don't necessarily want to be. I need to slow down and figure it out, at least what I think is right now. And so all this to say, you don't have to have it all figured out before you start. I sure didn't. And I figure it out as I go kind of person, because as you take action, you get new information, you reflect, you reassess, and you figure out, is this right or not? Again, action creates clarity. So I think starting is often the only way or the best way to figure things out if they're for you. Again, if you're waiting for like this perfect plan, that is never going to happen. You just have to start. I've achieved a lot in my life, but as somebody that is an achiever, right? Like I can check boxes like nobody's business. There have been seasons where there's been a lot of turmoil in my personal life or even at work with conflict or whatever, and it feels like everything is on fire and you're trying to like put out the flames, stay afloat, get the thing done. I can achieve my ass off while everything kind of feels like it's crumbling around me. And I know what it's like when that, that energy kind of dies down and you start rebuilding and taking action from a calmer, more sustainable place. I have found again and again and again in the rebuilding that you can create something better than what was before. And so I know and believe that what happens to us does shape us, but it doesn't have to define us. We get to choose what happens next. I wanted to kind of bring us to this spot because that is the premise of this podcast. Better days start today. Yeah, life happens. Things happen outside of our control all the time. That is, in fact, an element of life. No matter how good things are, we're never going to be able to stop something difficult from happening in the future. That's just the ups and downs of life. But even though that thing happens, we still get to choose what happens next. I just want you to consider that your best days aren't behind you if you choose that they're in front of you. And that is a choice. And it starts today with one small action, with one decision, with one messy step, whatever that might be for you. If you have been with me since the beginning and have been listening, I just want to say thank you for sticking with me as I kind of figure things out as I go. And it'd probably be quote unquote more professional if I kept a lot of the figuring out to myself, but I don't think that really helps anybody. So here I am processing out loud. So maybe you can get something out of it. And if you are new to this world, then welcome. I hope that I am able to, whether it's just a story that makes you smile or a little bit of info that might get you thinking about something that works for you, I hope that I'm able to help you or inspire you or make you think about something a little bit differently. If this resonated with you, I would love it if you would hit subscribe, share the episode with a friend, and just know that this is the beginning. This is a space where we're going to figure some stuff out. We're going to try different things. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to share what I do to make sure that I always have something to look forward to, even when things are hard. So there's a lot of really great stuff coming. Please hit subscribe, share the episode, and continue to join me this month. Since we are starting a new year, we are going to probably have some more episodes than usual. Typically we're on Thursdays, but Happy New Year. And we're going to do some episodes, some extra ones throughout January, just kind of get us going in this direction of creating better days as we kick off 2025. So thank you so much for listening. And remember, your better days start today. Thanks so much for spending time with me on Better Days Start Today. If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast, and leave a review. It helps more people find this space and start creating their better days too. And hey, don't forget to sign up for my newsletter at adriancrowley.com. You'll get exclusive tips, tools, and access to complimentary events designed to support you every step of the way. Until next time, remember, your better days, they start today.